Go. Okay, welcome to the EMC's The Energy Insider podcast. And our special guest today is my friend Andrew Singer, who is running one of the guys running Constellation Energy, the largest or one of the largest for sure energy companies in the country, maybe the world. And really is a pleasure to have you. And Andrew, I also want to thank you for taking the time to come to our EMC, our conference we had in National Harbor, Maryland. Um, I know it was relatively close to your home, so that's great. But you did a great job for us, and we had a bunch of Constellation speakers. Actually, we had Richard Spilkey, we had a bunch of Constellation speakers. But you added a lot of value, especially on the CEO roundtable. So thank you very much for spending
Thank you.
your personal time there and being so generous with your
Thank
wisdom and
you.
your experience. And thanks for
Thank you.
joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me be on a CEO roundtable, even though I'm not a CEO. So I appreciate it.
Well, we won't tell anybody about that.
Okay.
So that's great. But it's not the first time you were the CEO on the CEO roundtable. And you also were the keynote speaker, I believe, at the last conference, if I'm not mistaken. Was it
Yes, I was
Houston?
the fire of the fireside chat.
Okay, good stuff. So first of all, let's just start. First of all, did you have a good time in EMC? Was it productive
So it
use
was
of
a lot
your?
of fun. Got to see some old friends, made some new friends. I always like to hear what's going on in the industry. I found out that a lot more people are developing some AI and software that I didn't realize was being put together for some, common challenges, data challenges, etc. It was good. Also heard a lot more people that are concerned and thinking about, various regulatory legislative challenges, what's happening in the business, how are state governments reacting, what's happening at the federal level. It's good to hear the discussions and catch up with people. So yeah, I found it very helpful.
Right, great, thank you. All right, fantastic. That's good to know. And for those listeners um, that don't know this, we run two conferences every year. One in the spring in Houston, which is coming up this April 14th and 15th, and then the other one is in the fall, which we've moved from New York City to Washington D.C., and that's going to be next October in at the Omni Shoreham in central Washington D.C. Okay, so let's just get to get to you. So tell us a little bit about your background, how you ended up in the energy business, and what you like about it.
As a child, I always told my parents I wanted to sell electricity. Instead, they told me I should be a lawyer, so that went in that direction. I actually, out of college, I was in retail. I was a buyer at Lord and Taylor in New York City for a little while. Then I went to California to go to law school, practiced civil litigation for a while. My dream had been to be in direct litigation, do public defender, etc. These were the Reagan years. They were a bit difficult. The economy was difficult and the city was not hiring. I was in San Diego at the time, and somehow through a bunch of twists and turns, I ended up in real estate. I ended up in a window business. I opened a business, a lot going on. In the end, I ended up having a friend who was working for a company called New Energy Ventures. He was an intern at the company, and he told me they were going to hire a few people, literally go from 4 people to 12 people. Would I be interested? So he hooked me up with an interview. So I'm in there with a law degree, 2 kids, no job, not knowing what to do. And next thing I know, they offered me a job at very little money, but I took it. So obviously I was willing to take it. And I was told that I needed to sell $1 million of electricity, which had never been sold before because you couldn't sell electricity. And I had 90 days to do it, or else, go back and find something else. So that was almost 28 years ago.
Wow. Did you sell the $1 million of electricity in 90 days?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Well, how did you
We had
do that?
great
What did you know?
strategy
What
back
did you
then.
know about electricity? How did you actually just jump right into that without
I
getting
learned very
electrified,
quickly that
electrocuted?
you take smart people out with you who aren't necessarily salespeople, but I created technical salespeople out of all the gold watches that were in the office from the utility. They had hired some people that had retired already, basically to set up operations, be in charge of meter installs, data. There's a whole bunch of things going on. Our company was founded at the time by the former president of SoCal Edison, Mike Peavy. He had somebody that had been an executive at the gas company, a retired executive at the gas company. We had a lot of people there who knew what was going on and had been planning for this.
Wow.
So they were ready, and there were a lot of ex-utility people in the place. So I started by basically honing my knowledge, but realizing I was never going to know what was going on, and then
Right.
taking people with me on calls and learning how to kick people under the table when it got to the sales part, and they learned how to speak over me when it got to the energy part. We sold a product back then called shared savings because the way the competition was set up in California, was that it was set up as a market structure that we, as the new retailers and competitive marketers, would be able to create savings just because there was a power market that was created, the PX and the ISO there. And as a result of that, we should create savings. So out of that savings, we were going to share it with the customer. That was our first product. That quickly
Wow.
morphed into fixed pricing, index plus block. It also was the beginning and the end of Governor Gray Davis, the beginning of Arnold Schwarzenegger, the beginning and end of Enron. A lot happened in those few years in
Wow.
California that were all
Wow.
connected back to this little energy industry that started in April of 1998.
So that was what year are you talking about now when you first joined?
April, I started there in January. I started there actually in like November of 96 as a consultant, which is a euphemism for please show up at a table at a conference, but we can't pay you. And then in January of 97, I started full time. And then
Wow.
California was supposed to open January 1st of 98. We sold our first megawatt hour in December of 97 in Rhode Island. We beat Enron back then, which was a big deal. And then
Wow.
in April of 98, we started in California and started basically signing customers up. It got delayed by 3 months, and we started April 1st of 98.
So was that this is the predecessor to today what we call
This was the
Constellation?
original New Energy Ventures, which has gone through a whole bunch of successful and didn't finish M&A type situations. We were purchased by a few different companies, bought some companies. Exelon purchased us a while back. We separated from them and became Constellation again. So we were bought by Constellation in '02, and we
Hmm.
became Constellation as a standalone again almost around 3 years ago.
Right. Was that like 2022, was it?
Yeah, well, we separated
2022?
from Exelon. They went on as a separate entity with just utilities, and we went on with all of our generation plants, retail business, wholesale
Right.
business, etc.
Well, for those listeners who are interested in buying stocks of energy companies, I think Constellation separated from Exelon a few years ago, just a few years ago. I think it was a $40 stock, and I think I'm lucky enough to own it today at 400. But I didn't buy it at 400, thankfully. I think I bought it at $100. So I went up fourfold. I'm very happy. I'm unhappy that I didn't buy enough. Let's put it that way.
Well, as an officer of the company, I can't comment on anything, but we appreciate your being
Right.
a shareholder of the company.
Right. That's funny. That's funny. But it's a great company. Okay. So let's just talk about first of all, as a public company, an officer of public company, you can't do anything that's not already disclosed to the public. So we're not going to talk about anything that like that. But tell me a little bit about the history of this industry and you've been in this space now since 1996, 1997, really. So that's longer than me. I've been in this space since 2001, 2002. So that's longer than most people. That's is that almost 30 years now
Yeah.
in the same company. In
The
the
same
same
company
company.
from January of 97, but yeah,
It's
yes.
incredible. So 29 years in the same business, and you've seen, I'm imagining you've seen tremendous evolution. And tell us about that.
Well, it's been a great ride, first of all. And what we've seen basically was back in the late 90s, the beginning of competition in a bunch of markets. So our model was to basically open a market with somebody that was a regulatory expert, somebody that had connections of large associations, and somebody that potentially had some sales background with those connections. So in California, we had a very strong regulatory team. Mike Peavy had a lot of connections in the regulatory realm, in the Public Utility Commission realm from when he had been with Southern California Edison. We had people then that set up deals between us and various BOMAs, associations, etc. And we had customers that were ready to go because the association selling model was one where you would speak to one to get to many. So it was a very good model for us. And then we hired a sales team to go after it. And we quickly looked to see what other markets were opening, which they knew. So we set up offices almost immediately in Pennsylvania. And then in New England, we had a Boston office, also similar models. Then, not remembering the exact order, but we ended up with a Chicago office as well. I think we were in the basement of somebody's insurance company.
Wow.
And then at some point, when the ERCOT, the Texas market, was about to open, we also did the same thing there and opened up. And all of these offices operated as a beautiful hedge for the business because as one business was up, maybe another was struggling. The regulatory situation wasn't perfect. California was on the brink of closing, but luckily we had businesses all over the rest of the country. I had the advantage of having come in early, so they used to ship me off to the new office to let the new salespeople know, hey, this is the way it's been working, what product might work, what does the market look like, here's some of the sales things that have worked for us. So I was able to see a lot of the business throughout the country. When Constellation originally bought us, it was very cool because they said, maybe we should put together a national sales program. So that's when I moved to Baltimore. They asked me if I'd come to Baltimore with my family and basically put together what began as our national sales program. And to this day, is our national sales program. We've done some rotations, moved around. I'm in charge of regional sales now. My colleague is in charge of national sales. It's all big one happy family, but each market evolved differently. Each market had different rules. The Texas market was almost everybody in. Different markets, large customers, but not residential. Residential maybe, but not this. Medium size, but not this. I think Pennsylvania is open and closed maybe 3 times at this point. California was open, closed a little, opened a little more, did those types of things. Indiana was going to, wasn't going to. Louisiana, maybe one day. Arizona, a little, stop. Vegas, Nevada, maybe at some point. It's always been a bit of things like that. If you would have asked me in 1997, by 2026, what would the energy market look like? I would have told you, like gas, we'd basically be in the 48 contiguous. We'd be in every market by then.
Right.
So to some extent, I'm surprised that didn't go beyond the number of ISOs that we're in. But from another extent, having been in the middle of it, I can understand why. Because when you have a lot of your business based on policy, meaning what's happening in the legislature, what is the Public Utility Commission or its equivalent in a given state deciding, rules go back and forth, people's desires go back and forth, things change. And as a result of that, you also have to adapt, overcome, and understand. But one of the biggest things for our company that has always bode well for us is we have a very strong regulatory team that keeps us on top of what's going on, very pro-competition. We have lots of customers that enjoy being able to speak to their legislatures on a state level, to get involved, talk about competition, talk about why it's been good for them. And as a result of that, it's been a strong part of the business. But that's a huge part of the business, is understanding what's happening from a policy perspective, and then making sure that you're making good business decisions, which, we're still here, and a lot of other companies over the years, have come and gone. And we, thank God, have been here for a long time, and hopefully we'll just continue. But we grow. We have a wonderful culture, wonderful leadership, and it's exciting. My job inside the company has probably changed somehow or in some way almost every 3 years. So they're very good about keeping me on my toes, at the edge of my seat, and always having challenges out there. But I love what I do, and I love dealing with all of our customers on a daily basis.
Thank you for that. Were you always in the electricity and natural gas business, or was it only electricity in the beginning? Or
when I was responsible for our national customers, we crossed over into gas, but I had gas specialists on my team. I am not a gas specialist. I understand the business, and I've had customers that buy both commodities, which is amazing. But we have experts in gas in the company. We have an entire flourishing gas division that has their own leadership, their own salespeople. But as a company where we have customers that buy both of those from us, both gas and electricity, that's a huge win for us. That's a wonderful thing to be able to serve more than 2 products to a customer. We love to serve as many products as possible. All of our solutions, everything else we can do, that's what we want to sell to a customer. But yes, I've had customers throughout the years that buy both from us, and as a result of that, are really able to manage their risk and their cost and their budget around their entire energy portfolio.
And you're personally responsible for something like 50,000 C&I customers, is that right?
I'm responsible for what's our regional customer base. It's tens of thousands of customers in any given year.
Right. Got it. Okay, great. That's a great introduction. And just do you feel a little disappointed by the fact that, like when I joined this industry all the way back, I was a financier of about 22 different ESCO, we call them ESCOs in New York, or suppliers. And I was imagining that it's at the time, if you looked at the footprint for where these suppliers served, and you looked at the footprint now, 23 years later, it's exactly the same. There's literally not one additional geographical, there's not one additional state or territory, and maybe a territory or two here and there, Lubbock 2 years ago, whatever. But it's zero geographic growth in this industry. Is that disappointing to you, or just like,
well, as I had said, if you would have asked me, almost 30 years ago, I would have said we'd be everywhere. So from that perspective, I wish we were. To see what we've done in the markets that we're in and the business that we've built, that's been pretty phenomenal. But we've seen little, kicks and starts at different places. We're
Right,
very involved with some organizations right now that are trying their best to see where there are
right,
opportunities now.
right,
Competition, I believe, is a good thing on a personal level. And if we
right.
can figure out ways to have competitive markets, that's a great thing. And it's great for customers.
And tell me a little bit about how the product mix has evolved over the years. I know you started saying in the beginning you did it one way, then you went to like block and index or whatever it is and fixed pricing. How have you seen that evolve?
One of the most interesting things I think I've seen is a lot of our products have been customer derived in some cases. And what I mean is that we have larger customers back in the day, and we still do, that would look to duplicate a risk structure or a product structure that they would have had with another product. So let's say somebody had been buying gas and they said, oh, we had always bought a block or a contract of gas and purchased the rest on an index. Can you do that? So that would translate to a basic block index structure. There are
Right,
various flavors and recipes for doing
right,
it, but in
right,
general, initially that was almost for the most part customer derived, where you
mm,
started doing it and then
right,
you're like, wow, that's fantastic. Does somebody else want to buy that? And so
right,
you realize that what you have just for, one standard deviation on each side is something
right,
that other people want as well. We also, full requirements, load following, whatever term you want to use. I like to call it, Doritos, don't worry, we'll make more. There's a contract around it that has its parameters, but
right,
fixed price full requirements is also something that's very attractive. It really depends on how the customer does business, how the customer buys other what we'll call commodities, how they buy other things, how they manage risk. Because before, you couldn't manage risk, if you will, around your energy bill. What I mean is that you were just buying from the utility, maybe at a time of use tariff, but not many people really managed to it.
right,
So if you didn't know what you were doing at the time or didn't manage to it, you just basically paid the tariff,
right,
used what you used, and that was your
right,
bill at the end of the month. But then if you were able to employ various risk management tools of, maybe I will price myself in the market at this time, and I'll watch what I'm using through load management and take some risk around some pricing, but I know that I'm buying a block here. All of these things allowed the finance departments at these companies to basically engage a lot of their risk management philosophies around energy, which they hadn't done before. And people have been very thankful for doing that. I mean, a company that would buy blocks of steel or gravel, they have their ways of doing it. They have their ways of hedging jet fuel and other things, but they
right.
couldn't employ that in the energy business. Now, suddenly, they could take some of those strategies, think about it a bit differently. The challenge with electricity, for the most part, has always been you can't store it. Now there's storage, there are giant battery plants,
Mm,
etc., and they're
right,
becoming more ubiquitous, which is fantastic. But
right,
before, it was always known as a very interesting commodity, fairly at times volatile market, sometimes not, but for the most part, can't really store it.
right,
So it had to be thought of differently as it was natural gas. You fill up an underground container, you fill up a plant, so you fill something up and
right.
potentially save it for another day along with oil, petroleum, etc. So it's produced its own challenges. The traders that we have and the people that operate in the wholesale market, geniuses. They learned a business that didn't exist, employed some strategies from other places, and then had to invent models that hadn't been done before for this business. And they're still evolving literally every day, evolving models, doing it differently, thinking about it
Mm.
differently, and adjusting to the rules as they come at you.
It sounds like the secret to your success has been as a company, I would say, is flexibility, listening carefully to the customer, and then being flexible enough to adapt or adopt what they want and adapt what you do to what they want. Is that does
I'll
that
tell you a
summarize it?
secret. The biggest secret to our success is the people. After being here, the amount of time I've been here, I don't think I've met anybody over the years, new employee, existing employee. Everybody somehow has contributed to and made our culture what it is. And our culture is something that's evolved and has become something that everybody is comfortable with. But we hire, maintain, and retain bright, wonderful people. Even when young people come in or people come from other companies,
Mhm.
that has made the difference. When I started at this company, I was sitting on the floor licking envelopes and stuffing them with bills. What are the chances that the other 10 people in the room would be willing to do the same thing? I still think that people that work for the company now, if we had to, they'd show up on a Sunday afternoon if they needed to, or stay Monday till midnight. licking envelopes and stuffing bills if that's what we had to do, because that's the type of people that work here. Do we listen to our customers? We try our very best. Do we try to delight our customers every single day? But we also have great people that are working for us, people with tenure, people that care, and people that just love what they do. And that, to me, has made the biggest difference, is the people that we have and the people that stay. We have a phenomenal culture, and we really, really have great leaders at the top.
What are the benefits of somebody working for Constellation versus some other energy company? What do you do to build a team like that? Because
You get to see me every once in a while. That's always a benefit.
that's big. That's the best part.
I think to be honest with you, I think I've been honest the whole time. I
I
think
mean, do you
good
have like
people,
pizza every Friday or
no,
bagels every Tuesday? Or
good people attract good people. Good people know good people that they recommend to come in. We have young people that start that people just know, they'll be exposed to somebody somewhere and they're like, wow, you're a special person. Did you ever think about working in this business or anything? And next thing I know, I see somebody starting out that somebody bumped into at a conference, or somebody met
nice,
when they did a
nice.
college visit, or somebody that they've encountered in the industry and they just see the culture and they want to be involved. No, it's not donuts on Friday. We have a lot of hybrid work now. We have a lot of people in the office. We have some people that are out depending on where they live, but we have moments that matter. We have people that care. And I think that the ability to use Teams has been fantastic, from the beginning of COVID. I think the ability for me to manage a team that's all over the country, but I can still see everybody's face and I can put on some music for them and joke around a bit and see people's reactions. It makes a huge difference. Managing just on conference calls was a different thing as well. Then you have to change your voice every once in a while just to make sure people are paying attention.
It's
But
great.
no, it's not Pizza Fridays. I wish it was that easy.
No, yeah, there's no doubt. I actually had a podcast episode with Ashley Britt of Octopus, and she was mentioning how she really is able to attract great talent for Octopus. And I said, so how do you do it? She says, well, the office, the walls are pink and purple. So I said, wait a second. The walls are pink and purple, so that's what it's. No, no, I just mean it's culture. It's more of a friendly place, and it's easy. It's easy to bring your kids to work all the time. And she started explaining how exciting and fun it is to work at Octopus. I thought of that just now, saying like, is it exciting and fun to work at Constellation? I know the walls aren't pink and purple, but is it fun to work there?
Yes, it is. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. It's a great atmosphere. We have good people. We don't have pink and purple walls, but we do have comfortable chairs. We got cool screens with lots of different prices going on. We have a nice trading floor with nice offices. We have nice
What what
people.
is what are the advantages of being, a completely vertical company? You have generation, you've got wholesale trading, you've got retail, and I think you even might even have a broker that you own as well, as if I'm not mistaken. So
Got a lot of
what
stuff going on. Yeah.
yeah, so what about that?
It gives you a wonderful understanding of the whole business, first of all. Second of all, over all of these years, I think because I've been with the company before there were generators as part of the portfolio, and since there are, and I think the fact of having, as they call it, steel in the ground makes a huge difference. I think, first off, it allows you to see different facets of the business. Second of all, when there are crazy times, which there are, like hurricanes and storms and all of these things, you have a distinct view and a different position in the market sometimes than others. You're dealing with the market a bit differently. You have different levels of security here, not there, etc. But you're able to potentially weather more storms than others. But you're also able to build up to investment grade. You're able to basically have various different things going on that allow you to have a full 360 understanding of the market and an understanding of what's happening in a lot of different facets, which I think is a huge business advantage. And it's our challenge to be able to make use of that and actually call it an advantage. So I enjoy the fact that we have generation. I enjoy the fact that we have green generation, that we have sustainable generation, that we have carbon-free generation, that we have an understanding of all markets. It's a great thing to have, having a wholesale trading floor, having various businesses, being the demand response business, having a solution-based business, bringing bill management to customers, bringing them software solutions. All of these things give you a beautiful view into what's going on in the market and gives you basically a tremendous toolkit to help customers out.
I think one of the leaders of Constellation did a press conference with President Trump a few months ago on this on his executive orders to increase nuclear. Could you comment on that and anything that's again
Only the clips on YouTube. Joe Dominguez, our CEO,
right,
amazing guy, he was in the Oval, and I believe the president looked at him and
right,
said, "Hey, Joe, could you tell us a little something about your
right,
company and give us an
right?
understanding of what's going on in nuclear and carbon free?" And Joe killed it. He was fantastic. He basically explained what was going on, and I think to stand in the Oval, I probably would have been. I don't know if I would have been able to speak, but to be able to do that, which he can, and give an amazing master class and understanding of what's going on and why it's important, it was great. It was a great moment for the company, but anybody can find it out there on YouTube
I
and out there
think
on the web.
Trump called him too humble. You're too humble. You're doing such great work. Why don't you speak up?
And he
It
did,
was
which was awesome.
it was
He's
great,
great. Joe's
great.
great.
So what's next? What do you, I know we're not, let's not go back now 30 years. Let's go forward 30 years. What is the future of the retail energy? And now from someone that has more experience arguably than almost anybody in this industry, really, in the pure competitive energy, what do you see is on the horizon?
Well, I think the biggest challenge for us is to meet the expectations of customers. And what I mean is with the advent of AI, even if I could be so bold to say back when the internet started and no one was holding a phone, the challenge for you to be as good as somebody's best app and somebody's best AI experience is real. The challenge of you being able to bring everything a customer can think of to them in their hands as quickly as possible has never been more important. And I'm very proud of the fact that our company is always thinking, what do we need 5 to 10 years down the line? There are people working right now on what they can only dream of within the next decade because they know it's something that we're going to need. And if it's not, we'll learn something else from it. Failing forward is a good thing to do if that's what happens. And luckily, we're successful more than that. But I think it's going to be bringing the customer everything they expect and what they don't even realize they need. What you then need is the normal stuff behind it, which is you still need to bring them the energy and the gas. Carbon free is unbelievably important. And I'm so proud of our company as to where we are the leader in the carbon free market, what we're doing for customers, what we're doing for the planet. It's an amazing thing and it's real. And with that, I continue to think that that leadership and our ability to do that tremendously important. What's going to be next? I'm very excited about customers using a little less and getting involved with demand response. I'm very excited about customers maybe saying, you know what? I'd like to do a contract that's longer than what I normally would have done because I want to figure out and understand what pricing might be for a longer term. I want to understand what's going on with data centers right now. I want to understand what the rest of the market is doing. So I think it's going to be literally catering to customers at a level that you didn't realize you needed to, and that they don't even realize they wanted, and doing it perfectly and efficiently and continuing to delight them. I'm hoping that over the next 5 to 10 years, the rest of the country gets the bug. And once again, we see more competitive markets and the ability to serve our customers in more places. But until that happens, we will figure out creative ways to bring them carbon-free power, to bring them gas, to bring them projects and services, to bring them efficiency, to bring them everything we possibly can wherever they are. That is our mandate. That's our job. That's what makes it fun to get up in the morning and figure out what to do.
That's fantastic. And I can't believe you made that whole speech you read it from the prompter, right? From the teleprompter. No, I'm
Yeah,
just
you can
kidding.
see my eyes moving,
That's
Jack.
but really so eloquently said and really beautiful. Just one last question, two last questions. One is about EME. It's a very popular program. We see a lot of clients that are looking for something like that. So this is for listeners don't know what that is. It's energy made easy, basically combining a new boiler, a new chiller, or a new LED upgrade, and make it part of the bill.
Efficiency made easy. Efficiency made easy.
Oh, I thought it was energy made easy. Oh,
No,
that's
what we're
funny.
doing is we're bringing you efficiency projects
Right,
within the realm of your energy purchasing, and we're trying to
right.
figure out creative ways for you to
Mm,
basically bring in projects that you might not have thought that would be beneficial to you, trying to help
mhm.
you understand how the budget works, how it will affect your bill, how it will affect your demand, meaning what you're bringing off the system. If you bring in something that's more efficient, something using less
Right,
power, requiring less capacity, it's an
right.
amazing
And it
product.
has financing. It has financing built into it, and also you can do it on bill. So the on bill is a huge advantage for large companies that allocate those expenses out. So there basically is no capex, there's no capital upfront, and they could expense that out and allocate that to potentially to tenants or users in some way. So so many advantages I see of
If
this
you see the
program.
need for it, something you want to ask us about, obviously there are various qualifications and things we have to look at and boxes to check, but
Credit,
it's an
I'm assuming
amazing
credit.
product. One of
Yeah,
the great things about competition in a lot of markets is that the bill is available to your competitive suppliers. So you have various things and strategies available to you to try to help the customer figure out what to do with their expenses.
fantastic, fantastic. So any parting words, any advice you would give to someone that's maybe not brand new in the industry, but coming into the space? I actually did a call just now with someone who just entered the space about a year and a half ago, and she's completely overwhelmed with what she's seeing. And what advice would you give to the newbies in this space, in this business?
I guess advice to the newbies would be keep an old school notebook or a laptop or something in front of you that you can write down all the acronyms and slowly learn what they are. Secondly, take the time to actually learn the history of the business and what's going on in the business. Love markets and force yourself to understand the markets that we're in, understand the sway of the markets, the movement, the effects of weather, the effects of seasons. And on top of all of that, listen to, if you're starting out, your prospects because your goal is to make them your customers. But realize if you're competing with me, I'm going to want to keep them my customers forever. So think about how it is you're going to do what you're
Very
doing
good.
as well.
Very good. Andrew, as usual, you're fantastic. Thank you so much for
Thank you. Thank you for
taking of
having me.
your personal
Appreciate it.
time, really, and sharing your wisdom with us. It's like I said, you're generous with your wisdom, and I'm sure our listeners are going to love this episode. So I want to thank you again for taking the
Thank
time.
you. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's good to see you.